What's going on, guys? Big welcome to you all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta. Today you're here with D-Boy. We are back with another episode from the Spike with the Show by me. Okay, so today we'll talk about premium. If you don't know about me or about our channel, I'm a big Spike with a fan. I'm also a premium fan. I play standard, play premium, and also will play the new D format. But I have been playing the game from the start, and I picked up Spike Brothers from the start. And since then, I've played every format with Spike Brothers, and Premium is one of my favorite formats because it's very, very mixed. You could build whatever you like, and also when you play against somebody, they could play anything. You don't know. They could be any clan, any combination, any different crazy shenanigans. So welcome to our channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, comment and like our videos, and we'll hope to see you in more videos on our channel. Let's get to the content of this video. So Spike is in premium. We have talked about this in videos before, and we have talked about this on Facebook. Like, lots of people are asking, what premium Spike deck could I build? Me, Sorella, Luke and Axel, if you don't know them, they're very known and amazing players in Europe, and they're also known for using Spike Brothers. So we talked about the different approaches we could take to build Spike Brothers, and one of the things that we have came to a conclusion is that the Aggro Spike Brother deck at this moment is just not good enough for the format. What am I talking about? When we talk about Spike, there are two approaches that you could take. Actually three, but we'll talk first about the two. The first one is Aggro, and we show that actually by Agrius. Why Agrius? The stride right here is because Agrius was the first card that made the standard plus deck, which is the Aggro deck. The second approach that you could take is, of course, the Turbo deck. So you have Turbo and you have Aggro. The differences between the two decks is that the Turbo deck is more balanced and is also more control. It's up to you to control the base of the game. You could choose to not give your opponent damage. You could choose to give them a little bit of damage. You could choose to do whatever you like. You could put Raggers on the field, but you could keep everything in your hand. You could search your heals, but you could also search something else. The deck is more flexible, but it actually has only the GB8 as its finisher, although you could still go to an Agrius or a Vermios or whatever stride you want to go into to finish your opponent off. The Aggro deck, the issues that the deck has is that it needs to put your opponent as a certain amount of damage for you to be able to finish them off during your stride turn. Or if you do not give them enough damage in the early game, then you will come into the conclusion that later on your columns will lose power by them getting triggers, or when they hit 1 or 2 heal triggers, then you will lose momentum of the game. And in any sports, in any team, when you lose momentum of the game, you need to do something big to get back the momentum of the game. So when we play Turbo, it's up to us to push or not push, to choose the tempo of the game. You could play a slow based game, you could play a fast based game. The pure Turbo, on the other hand, actually plays a slow base. And that's when we get into the third deck, which is a combination of the Turbo and the Aggro. It's a deck that goes in between, a deck that could abuse mechanics like Zazan or Tempest or the Clay Elemental Chain Ride, let's call it like that, the Thunder element. And that gray area between the Turbo and Aggro is where I like to build my decks. At first, I will also still show you a pure Aggro deck because lots of people are interested in that as well. But I will not show you a pure Turbo deck because there is no reason, because you could still use Zazan Tempest or the new Clay Elemental mechanic, let's say, to Chain Ride or Superior Ride into getting that grade 3. So let's get into the first one, which is the Turbo balance. As I said, the strength of this deck is that it controls the base of the game. This is the deck that I play the most at the moment when I have to play Premium or when I want to play Premium. And the deck is actually between Aggroing and Turboing. And because it's in that space, it's up to you as a player to build it in the way that you like, to play during the game the way that you like, depending on your hand, depending on your opponent damage, depending on the opponent deck, depending on their field, depending on their playstyle, depending on whatever you feel like. You could do whatever you like. How does the deck looks like? Well, it looks like this. The deck plays, of course, Jelly Beans as a way to search your heals or to search your grade 2 vanilla to be able to get the skill off of Zazan, or to be able to ride, or to be just able to turbo if you search the heal. Rising as your main ride to grade 3 because it gives double markers, and because you will be making that huge column, the Rising will make a huge difference. And then we talk about, of course, the Bad Dragger, as the Bad Dragger is an important card because he could still get rid of Honoli. If your opponent could not call Honoli during their turn, your turn, you could still get rid of it by riding into the Bad Dragger and riding on top of it. So your normal strategy would be the first ride, Bad Dragger, second ride, the Rising, and you give all the markers to the same column, which you'll have 2 Force 1 and 1 Force 2. 2 Force 1, 1 Force 2 on the same column, which makes even a trigger with the GB8 ability will attack for 35 or 34 by itself, which is crazy, right? So we get to the grade 2s. Right here you see Spike Bouncer, you see Breach, you see the vanilla. Spike Bouncer and Breach, especially Spike Bouncer, is the card to give you the multi-attacking option. Breach and Wonder Boy are the cards that could put and recycle cards back. Breach could put a Wonder Boy, Breach could put, of course, a tier back to the deck, Breach could put anything back to the deck, which makes him an amazing card. Also in the early game, he works perfect with the deck as well. Then we get to the great ones, and that's when you see the most vanillas. Why? Because you have the 15k shield, which could give you the defensive option, of course, to survive your opponent mid-game, especially mid-game. Then we have the tier, important card to countercharge. You also see that I play lots of 6ks and 7ks as great ones, so you don't really have to hit your opponent. The only thing that you miss in this deck is actually a different vanilla as a grade 2 that you want to play. But why do we choose to play him? Because he's a deadly and you search him with Jelly Beans. We play one Tempest, we play one Mega Trainer because the Tempest and the Zazan are here to give you 1 GB. Just 1 GB is enough for you to get ham and to use your G-Guards right away. Because your G-Guards will be able, from the first stride that you do, or even before you stride, you need 3 G-Guards to get into the GB8 because you could use the flip G-Guards right away because you already have GB1. And if you go second and you get the first stride, then you already have 1 GB, then you get into 3 GB, and the only thing you need is 2 G-Guards to get into the 7 GB for your GB8. And that's why the deck is strong, because it gets the defensive options to your hand. There are different things that you could change about this deck. There are 2 ways to build it. You could focus on Spike Bouncer, which you need damage to use. But you could also focus on Detonate Barrel. Detonate Barrel doesn't need damage, and if you have Detonate Barrel in your deck, then you need to add more Wonder Boys, more Ted into the deck, and you take out the tier or leave 1 or 2 tiers in there. Why do you still keep tier in the deck? Because there are some matchups that will call Honoli, and the only card that could save your ass is, of course, tier. So again, be very smart about which deck you play against and about them having a Honoli or not, calling it to the field or keeping it in their hand. You just have to be very smart about the way that you approach that matchup. Okay, the trigger lineup, we also see here that I still play the 4 crit, 4 heal, and then the 8 draw. There are some people who want to take out the crits and put more draws in here. That's a possibility. I like the crit because it's a 15k shield, but it's also a card to stride with, because sometimes you don't want to lose your grade 3s. The Jelly Beans is to search, the Rising is to ride on the next turn. The Rising is very important, you do not want to give him up except riding into it. Other cards that you could put into your deck except the Detonate Barrel. There are a lot of cards that you could put into your deck, depending on which approach you want to take. As I said, Detonate Barrel, but another card that's very good, it's the Acrobat Verdi, the Stride Folder, and the Grade 3 Searcher, so from V and from G. Both are good. The Acrobat Verdi, which is the Stride Folder, from the G era is good because you could just call it to the field, show a grade 3, and search Rising to your hand, which is your favorite grade 3 to ride. And with that, you add to the consistency of the deck because you could search Acrobat Verdi with your Mega Trainer. If you have trouble with finding the right grade 3, the Mega Trainer and the Acrobat Verdi could help you to get the right grade 3. In this deck, I didn't find myself having that trouble because I have 7 really good ride targets to go into, but it's a possibility to do if you keep drawing only the jelly beans. The second Acrobat Verdi is also very good, which is the one from the V format. Why is it good? Because it could search a grade 3 from the top 5, which pretty much could also search a jelly beans, and the jelly beans will become a heal. So actually it's a heal searcher and a grade 3 searcher. Why don't I play it in this deck? Because I don't want to play random grade 1s that you could not really use except if you get it with your Mega Trainer, which is a possibility. So if you want to play the Acrobat Verdi, just do it. I'm a big fan of him, you could play him. But for now, I'm playing this deck because it felt the most consistent to me. The strides of the deck. So how does the deck look like? So right here we see that we have, of course, the G-guards. We play the 3 flip G-guards, which means that you could go GB8 on your first stride. You play still the 2 copies of Hegaton Ghost because it gives you the approach or the opportunity to put cards from the drop zone back or soul back to your deck, which means you get the right combo pieces to your deck for your GB8 turn or for whatever turn you want. Then we play the 2 Elementals, Desmil, always good to have him in your deck, and Reggaeton because you will be able to drop and draw, which is also very good if you are searching through your deck for the right cards. We have Agrius in here as well. Agrius is good to give you the opportunity to rush your opponent when you want to. That's why it's an aggro deck and a turbo at the same time. Then we have Violence Ace. Violence Ace is also a way more important card than people sometimes may think, because the card could still finish your opponent off, but also gives you the right amount of power to draw cards. Amazing draw power, especially if you did just came 1 attack or 1 GB close to your GB8, then Violence Ace is the card that will set you back to track, give you lots of cards in hand, and still put pressure on your opponent, or not, or just don't put pressure at all because his skill is an act. Then we have Vermios, again very good, especially with Rising because it could kill right away. You don't see good end in this deck, it's not needed, but we see of course the main boss of the deck, which is the GB8. Play only 1 copy of him. I didn't feel that it was necessary to play more, but maybe in a more competitive tournament, depending on which decks we will see, I think that there will be a second copy of the GB8. And also if they will introduce the super trigger, the super ultimate trigger in the premium format, you need a second GB8, because if your opponent damage check that trigger, then it's pretty much game over if you don't play Frog Raider, or you just need to add Frog Raider and you hope that you get the trigger as well, but I will not do that. So you will just add a second copy of the GB8 and then you will take out 1 Mirandol. We see the 2 Cyclone, of course, here in his beautiful art. The Cyclone is in here because you can flip him with Tempest, you flip him with Sazan, and he makes your vanilla stronger, which is of course very good. And we see the 1 Mirandol. This is the Joker in the deck. You could take him out to play whatever you like. You could play a good end with, because you also play bad end trigger. You could play another Cyclone. You could play a second GB8. You could play Violence Ace, a second copy. You could play whatever you like. Dust. Formido is also a very good card to put in the deck, especially if we get into a Nobutama format. Now we get into the full aggro deck. So again, there are issues not in the deck but in the play style of the deck. You cannot afford to give your opponents so much damage and hope that they could not have a strong first stride. That doesn't work like that anymore in premium. You could also not rush them enough for them to have nothing to do the next turn. Why? Because they pretty much, most of the clans right now play V triggers, which is good defensively, but also good when you drive check it, because again, good defensively, has a power and a shield, the power that it gives. So aggroing, I don't know about that in this current format. I think that you're taking a huge risk if you take a deck like this to a tournament. But the deck is lots of fun to play. when you're not getting into that competitiveness. There are lots of ways to build the deck differently. The grade 3 lineup in my eyes is the best as it is, which is the 4 Rising Nova, 2 Rising Star, and the 3 Bad End Dragger. Bad End Dragger, good because you could still get into Good End, and Good End with Rising is the same as Good End with Bull Spike, almost the same, but it's very strong and it gives you soul, and you keep the soul for your next Vermios turn, which will kill your opponent. Very, very, very good. Your game plan is to go Good End, then go Vermios, or just go Agrius, then go Vermios, whatever you want, but as long as you build a little bit of soul, you build a little bit of momentum, you go, and whenever you start, it never ends, except if your opponent gets multiple heals and lots of power on their Vanguard. For the grade 2 lineup, we see Bracky, which is a good way to have a good early game, also a good way to fill the soul. Same goes for Ronaldo. Ronaldo could fill up your field for Good End because he will be just randomly calling everything, and that's what you want. You don't have to commit from hand. Why do we only play 3? I didn't feel it was necessary to put the 4th one in here because you could ride him in the early game or you could use him later on, but you could not really afford to use 2 Comp Blasts in one game by his ability. So you'll only be using him once, and you have to find the right timing. We have Axe Diver and Lethal Forward. I love to play these cards and I love to play them together. Lethal Forward is very good with Vermios because if the attack does not hit, you call. If the attack does hit, you call. And whatever you want to call, pretty much most of the time could be an Axe Diver, and the Axe Diver will recall the Lethal Forward, and you have 2 strong attackers again. And because you will be able to call the Lethal Forward on the other side, which doesn't have markers, you will also be able to not hit your opponent Vanguard, which means you could even have another call with Vermios if you're playing this combination with Vermios. The combination also works with Agrius, of course. Frog Raider will be supporting these two. If you take Frog Raider out, then you could also take Axe Diver out. You could even take Lethal Forward out to put cards like Deadly Mason in here, or just old school Skydiver. We see Wonder Boy at 4, the same for Bracky. They just good to fill your soul, and it's a good powerhouse as an attacker or even a booster because you become 13k, which could hit everything, and with your markers you'll be able to hit great numbers. Gyro Slinger is your playmaker with the Ambush Dexter. You don't see my SP Ambush Dexter in here. Why? Because it's another deck. I have enough SPs for 1 or 2 decks, but not for all my decks. So sometimes I have to switch them if I want to do you guys a profile or something. So Ambush Dexter right here, again, very, very, very good because he will be able to take out that Ronaldo that you have on the field that does nothing and make 2 Brackies out of it, or you could do whatever you like. The card that I like to put in here and the cards that I like to take out before we get into the triggers. The cards that I actually want to take out is the Axe Diver because he costs Soul and Counterblast, and most of the time you could not afford to give that up, especially Soul, because you're doing so much work to create Soul. So what you could do right here is you could of course still put Breach in the deck because Breach recycles and goes to Soul and draws. So that's the perfect card to put in here. So take out the 2 Axe Diver to put 2 Breach. That's a possibility. Why do I keep playing Axe Diver? Because I am a big fan of him. Then we talk about Frog Raider. If you take out the Axe Diver, then you have not much charging units, although the Rising Star and the Mega Instructor are more than enough for you to play Frog Raider. But still, you could take out the Frog Raider to play something different in the deck if you want to. The trigger lineup is perfect in my eyes. You have the 4 heals. There is no reason to play vanilla, the non-vanilla heals, because vanillas are more shield value, and in this deck you need the shield value in the early game, and then late game, and the mid game, and the whole game long. We play the draw PG because you do need the draw power, but you also need the other triggers. Grade 3s are important in this deck, and you could not give them up, so you need to stride with your crits most of the time if you have them. And of course you have the Mega Instructor, which is another playmaker. Other cards that you want to put into your deck, you have Eliza is good. You could play her. You also of course have Fake Bomber, which is the great one that goes with Rising and Instructor. And you have the Laser Blackguard as I said, is very good. And then for the V grade 2s that you could add to the deck, or V grade 1s, you could add one more ambush texter, which would work. You could take out the Axe Diver, of course, and put in cards like Deadly Mason, or, as I said, Breach is a very good card to put into the deck. The starter, of course, the V starter. Why? Because it's an SP, and another reason is because you want to create soul, and the hand advantage at the start of the game is good. How does your G deck look like? So we have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So the 16 cards G-Zone, I didn't give you any room to add extra cards that you want. But I will tell you which cards you could take out if you really want to put something else in the G-Zone, like Picaro or anything else that you want to have. For the G-Guards, we play only the 5 because, again, this deck was not meant to turbo, but you could still use 1 or 2 or 3 heals to get into the GP8 because the GP8 is still in every deck a very, very, very good card. Especially in a deck that uses Frog Raider, the GP8 becomes even more effective. Why don't we play Frog Raider in the other deck? Because you need charging units, and then you need to take out some of your grade 2s to put Mayhem Tiger in there and stuff like that. And with that, you will taking out the Zazan mechanic with the vanillas, and you're playing pure turbo, which works, but I like the deck in between better. We play Dust and we play Formido. Are they necessary? No. These are the 2 cards that you could change out. Formido is good even in the other deck, although we don't have space for him because Mirandol is still better than Formido. But he's very good because sometimes in the Nubitama matchup, sometimes in the Mega Colony matchup, Formido will shine because you don't really need to keep discarding grade 3s and cards from your hand to stride. You could just keep on riding and you'll be good. Dust is a good card you could use, especially against decks or clans that could use their G-Guards to get rid of the cards that you have on the field that you want to keep, or that could put a Homily from their hand or from drop zone or from whatever to the field, or from even their deck. And that's why the Dust is very, very, very good. We have Agrius at 4. Of course, it is an aggro deck, and sometimes you go into a second Agrius, although I don't do it that much, but it's a possibility. We have Romeos at 2, your main stride with Agrius. We have 1 ace, only 1 violence ace. Reason is that he is in here sometimes to power up your Frog Raider, to draw your cards, but could also finish your opponent off by his second ability, because it's an ability that we don't really use that much, but in this deck you could reuse it for its full advantage. Then of course we have 1 good end, which is more than enough, and 1 GP8, because the GP8 is still and will always be the best stride in Spike Rose, and maybe even in the whole game. And that's actually pretty much it for now. So thank you all for watching. If you want to know more, I will go into details in the deck profiles themselves. If you have any questions, ask them in the comment section below, and we will try to answer you, of course, as fast as we can. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for tuning in on our channel. This was me, D-Boy, talking about the aggro, the turbo, the different approaches that you could make your Spike Brother premium deck with. Till next time.